Hey everyone, my name's Trapixium, and I found this amazing artifact! I can't believe this, it's such a good find, I don't even know what it does. It's kind of just assumed it did nothing.
That is a roll of tape.
Wait a second, you aren't the normal voice in my head.
No, I'm not. But you're a 20-something who I'm being forced to interact with. Clearly, this is not a first for either of us.
Who the nix is in this roll of tape?
My name is Urza. You may know me as the Mad Artificer. I was the mentor of Teferi of Zalfir and Jorah of the Gitu, and defender of Dominaria.
What? How did one of the strongest planeswalkers in the entire multiverse end up sealed in a roll of tape?
Well, I was the glue holding the Alliance, Silurian Academy, and 9 Titans together. Makes sense, glue would go on tape.
Glue? Tape? Good jokes. Are we talking about the same Urza?
Your idiocy is only rivaled by your ignorance. Allow me to tell you my story. It was at that point I resolved myself to my fate, 4,205 years, and I had committed atrocities. I had regrets, most of them being of how I treated others. But it wasn't until I was so close to death I felt peace. So, what do you think?
I think that was way too long. But I'll simplify it for the crowd. Urza was born in the year 0 AR to a family of nobles in the kingdom of Argive on Tertiaire. That same year, his brother Mishra was born, and later on their mother actually died. His father remarried, and their stepmother didn't much care for the boys. When Urza was 10, his father fell ill, and he and his brother were sent to live with their father's friend Tokasia, and helped with her archaeological digs. Through his apprenticeship to Tokasia, Urza learned about artifacts, their manufacture, and how to excavate the ancient Thran ruins that dotted Tertiaire. Urza was a gifted researcher. He never really helped actively with digs, but he was amazing at studying what was dug up. Urza spent years at Tokasia's camp and made several critical discoveries and inventions, like the ornithopter, and then what happened in the caves of Koilos.
Mishra, give me the stone.
That was the phrase that set Dominaria on fire. When Urza and Mishra found the caves of Koilos, they found a power stone, split in two. Both took a half. Urza named his piece the Might Stone, and Mishra named his the Weak Stone. It didn't take long for Urza to want the Weak Stone and Mishra to want the Might Stone. A fight broke out in the form of a DBZ-style beam struggle between the two brothers that led to the inadvertent death of Tokasia. The brothers parted ways, each going their own direction. What they didn't know is the stones they took were holding the planar portal to Phyrexia shut, and now Dominaria was open to infiltration and subversion. Urza walked to South Tertiaire, the kingdom of Yolta, and began work as a clockmaker's apprentice, and shortly after his arrival in Yolta, the king issued a challenge to the public. Anyone who could move the giant jade statue in the palace courtyard would be allowed to marry his daughter with his blessing. Urza found out there was an ancient Thran Tominar dowry and built a machine to move the statue, and ended up being married to Kayla bin Krug, the princess of Yolta. Urza wasn't that good of a husband, not as in he was unfaithful, he just wanted the book from her dowry. He became the chief artificer and worked endlessly to improve his inventions, constantly refining his projects. Urza eventually followed the line of succession and became the ruler of Yolta, and by sheer convenience, it just so happened that Mishra had been doing the same thing in the Falaji Desert. He became the ruler over the course of 7 years. Suffice to say, the relationship between the Yoltans and the Falaji were not good. After a series of espionage acts that went sour between both sides, war broke out. Elaborate war machines were built by both sides, and as time went by, things got severely out of hand. Decades later, the two sides met at Argoth. Whilst there, Urza discovered his brother's well-kept secret.
Mishra, what have they done to you?
Mishra had been slowly corrupted by the Phyrexians and was becoming a machine. Urza's response was quaint and elegant.
Nope.
Urza activated the Golgathian Silex, an ancient artifact, although it just looks like a bowl, capable of immeasurable destruction. That blast was one of the most destructive events in all of Dominarian history. It wiped out both armies, sank a whole subcontinent, and changed weather patterns so much so that Dominaria was sent into an ice age. What was left of Mishra was killed in the blast. And with Urza in the direct center of it, something in him ignited, no, not his organs, but a planeswalker spark. With Mishra's death, both the Might Stone and Weak Stone were fused into Urza's eyes. He promptly left the plane, bidding a final farewell to his apprentice and good friend Tawnos, and left him with a message.
Goodbye, my friend. Tell Kayla I love her, and to remember me as I tried to be.
And with that, Urza traveled the multiverse, and in those adventures, Urza learned the truth of his brother. Filled with grief, he made a promise to himself.
I vow I will make Phyrexia pay for what they did to my brother. I don't care if it takes the rest of my life, they will burn for what happened to Mishra.
Urza created the biggest dragon engine he had constructed to that point, and planned an invasion of Phyrexia with the help of a Newt sleeper agent named Xancha. Urza managed to make it to the 4th level of Phyrexia, but fell prey to Yawgmoth's mental attacks. I thought that was a blue thing, not a black thing. Anyway, Urza went insane.
I must leave this place.
Urza fled Phyrexia and received care and assistance from Sarah and her realm. Once his stay on Sarah's realm was complete, he left. Sadly, Urza was followed by Yawgmoth's forces, and they kinda corrupted Sarah's realm. Anyway, he returned to Dominaria with Xancha for the first time since Mishra's death, and suffice to say, it kinda took its toll on Urza.
His death, his corruption, it was entirely my fault. If I hadn't been so blind, there must be a way to bring him back.
With the help of a young man named Retepe impersonating Mishra, Xancha was able to shake Urza from his state of grieving and led a series of missions that would rid Dominaria of all the sleeper agents Phyrexia had sent. Urza had tracked the leader of the Phyrexians on Dominaria named Gix back to the caves of Koyos and managed to kill Xancha and Retepe. Urza then killed Gix in retaliation. It was then he learned of the upcoming Phyrexian invasion.
Invasion? No! Dominaria must be ready. Preparations must be made.
Urza created the Silurian Academy. He summoned the most talented magi to help him teach the new mages of Dominaria. With help of the Academy, Urza started drafts on blueprints for a machine that allowed him to look into the past and see the Thran-Phyrexian war that banished them in the first place. By putting Xancha's Heartstone into a golem made of silver, Urza could, in theory, enter the time rifts created by the Temporal Disruptor and potentially change the past. During the Disruptor's trial run, the system was overloaded and it exploded, destroying the Academy, killing the students and teachers, and covered the island in temporal disturbances. Karn and Urza survived without injury, and much had been learned from the event. Urza was absolutely devastated, though.
I did it again. I blew it all up again.
Urza rebuilt the Academy and made use of the newly created time rifts on Telaria to engineer magical tech armor that allowed Telarian students to do decades of work in a few hours. Potions were brewed with water from the slow time rifts that had time-extending effects. For the first time in his fight against Phyrexia, Urza was gaining ground. Urza needed to correct his mistakes. However, you see, a sleeper agent named Carrick, you may know him as Crick, managed to survive the explosion and was trapped along with some Phyrexian negators in an extremely slow time bubble. But it was just a matter of time before they adapted and escaped. Urza needed allies, so he traveled all over Dominaria looking to cement alliances with nations. Lastly, the people of Yavimaya, a place that hated Urza because of the destruction of Argoth with the Silex blast all those years ago. A sorcerer known as Multani welcomed Urza, but trapped him in a tree and forced him to endure all the pain he had ever inflicted, only to escape in time to defend the Academy with the help of Multani, kill Crick, and after seeing the destructive nature of the Phyrexians, Multani agreed to give aid to Urza. With Telaria secure, Urza started work on what he called Dominaria's salvation, starting with not just a ship, but a flying ship, capable of not only supersonic speeds, but plane shifting between worlds. The best weapons, piloted by the best fighters, Urza used Thran metal and a weather seed from Yavimaya, and christened his new linchpin the Skyship Weatherlight. All that was left to figure out was how it would be powered. The ship's mana battery would need enough energy to charge its Power Stone core, but that would take an entire plane's worth of mana to do so.
In order to save my world, I have to condemn another.
Urza looked to Sarah's realm. It was corrupted by Phyrexians that had invaded after his departure. In order to save as many people as possible, he would have to destroy the plane and every Phyrexian on it. Sarah's realm was wiped from existence, to power the Weatherlight. Time went by, and Urza realized the Weatherlight wouldn't be enough. He would need a living component to keep the ship running. Cue the Bloodline Project. In a marvel of genetic engineering and awe-inspiring horror with a side of hypocrisy, Urza set out to create the perfect warrior by manipulating the bloodlines of Dominaria, starting with the families that had ties to white mana, creating stronger soldiers in each generation until the apex was reached. There were dozens of families, and after some time, the Silurian Academy soon had complete say over who married whom. Notably, Urza targeted Jamura and the domains like Benalia, directly manipulating families like the Capuchins and the Sisseys. After some time, Urza made an army of these genetically modified stocks known as the Metathran. It went so far as his own friends. Urza appointed Rain as Chancellor of the Silurian Academy not only because she was a well-qualified candidate, but because he knew the children Baron and Rain could have a lot of potential. Whilst all this was going on, Wrath, it was being merged with Dominaria, and Urza scrambled the Metathran to combat this. They held well until the Phyrexian invasion. During the invasion, the Phyrexian forces invaded through the caves of Koilos, and Urza was hell-bent on never allowing them re-entrance. The Alliance held the invasion force back, all the while Urza was planning his own attack on Phyrexia. But he would not be alone this time. Urza had assembled the 9 Titans, 8 planeswalkers of great strength and power. Commodore Guff of the Hidden Library, and a beautiful beard, might I add. Tavish Zat, the Doom of Fools. Bo Lavar, Interplanar Smuggler. Daria of Olgratha. Taisier of Rabia. Freylis of Llanowar, Christina of the Woods, and Lord Windgrace of Urbor. Urza gave each planeswalker a giant heavily armed mech, and they went off with the plan to end Phyrexia. Upon entering Phyrexia, the Titans set upon destroying the artificial plane, each armed with a soul bomb that was made to blow the plane to pieces. As the invasion went on, Tavish Zat began to kill his fellow Titans. Urza was able to stop him.
You know, Baron says having your soul fuel a soul bomb is a punishment not worthy of the worst crime. I call it justice for what you did.
Even with some of his Titans dead, all of the preparations, everything he went through, Urza couldn't bring himself to destroy Phyrexia. He'd become fascinated by the technology and potential knowledge that could be learned there. He dismantled his master soul bomb and surrendered himself to Yawgmoth. In a test of loyalty, Urza was forced to fight the Weatherlight's Master of Arms, Gerard Capuchin. Urza bested Gerard twice, but was forced into rematches due to indirect and cowardly tactics. After restarting the match for a third time, Urza was beheaded by Gerard, and he was crowned Yawgmoth's new champion. Gerard promptly escaped from the stronghold and carried Urza's severed head with him, God knows why. When Gerard returned to the Weatherlight, he was surprised that Urza could still talk. Yep, Urza was still alive, his life force contained within the power stones in his eyes. It didn't take long for Yawgmoth to catch up and attack the Weatherlight in the form of a giant cloud of death, but was repelled briefly by the white mana stored in the Null Moon. Urza finally decided it was time. He had to end this.
Gerard, Karn, you are my legacy. The artifacts you've gathered in your travels, are you ready to fulfill your destiny?
In a flash of light, Urza, Gerard, and Yawgmoth were dead. The legacy was a weapon. The only thing required to power it was sacrifices in the form of Urza's head, Karn's body, and Gerard's life. In the Legacy's activation, Karn was infused with Urza's spark, and with the power unleashed by the Legacy weapon, suffice to say, Urza's legacy lives on.
Well said. Thank you.
And that, my friends, is the video on Urza. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Do you think, mass eugenics, that's going a bit too far? And while I'm at it, blowing up a plane is definitely going too far. Or do you think he's a bit of an anti-hero? Do you think, he's the hero we don't deserve, but the hero we need? What do you think? Tell me what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much to Mr. Dedrick for voicing Urza. You can find him on twitch.tv/Mr. Dedrick. And then, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. And if you want to revel with me and Xenagos, hit that subscribe button. And until next time, my friends, may the Lotus watch over you.